This is why you can't find a job. And the first reason is that you aren't listening to the market. You need to understand what the market believes you are actually qualified for, which may be in a misalignment with what you believe you are qualified to do, or what kind of jobs you even want to get. The easiest way to figure out what the market believes your skill set is to check your LinkedIn messages or to check the jobs that Indeed recommends for you. Your LinkedIn messages will show you how recruiters perceive your experience and what jobs they think you're actually qualified for. And the job recommendations you get from Indeed.com are actually based on the resume that you upload to other jobs, because they use their algorithm and AI to understand and predict what jobs you may be qualified for. So if both of these sources aren't giving you the jobs that you are trying to get, then that means you need to go ahead and update your LinkedIn and update your resume to accurately reflect what you're trying to target. The second reason you're not finding a job is because you're applying for the wrong level of role. Remember, most companies aren't going to promote you when you're switching jobs, even if you're going from a bigger company to a smaller company. This is especially true on the engineering side, because all engineering positions are pretty much created equally between companies, even if you are at a startup. Now, the advantage is, at a startup, you may have more opportunities to work on other features or to work on other areas outside of your core domain, which you may be limited to at a bigger company. But usually, your job title will remain the same. You could also be applying for the wrong level of role if you're coming back from a break. This could be a really long break because you wanted to raise your family, or you had a medical condition that you needed to work through, or you were waiting for your work authorization for a few years, or maybe you wanted to do your own startup and now you want to get back into a regular job. Depending on how long it's been since you've had a corporate or regular job, you may actually need to even take one step back from where you were. The next reason you may not be able to land a job is if you're applying for the wrong type of job. Remember, most of these ATS systems and recruiters are trained to make sure that all the candidates that they move forward and choose to speak with match at least 80 to 90% of the requirements within a job description, especially all of the minimum qualifications. Now, most of the time I see this issue where people are trying to do a career switch, or maybe even switch domains or switch industries. So if you are trying to make these switches, you're going to need to make sure you have a really strong work endorsed referral from someone at that company who can explain exactly why you may be qualified for a job when you don't even meet some of the minimum qualifications. And if you want to know how to network properly to get these types of referrals, you can watch this video right over here. The next reason why you can't land a job is because your interview answers are simply just average. In a hyper-competitive job market like today, when there's a lot of layoffs and very few jobs, or when you're applying for a fully remote position, it's going to be extremely competitive because you're competing with everybody across the entire nation and sometimes even the whole world. So when companies have access to all these great, amazing candidates, if you're just giving average or all right or status quo or predictable interview answers, it's not going to be enough to get you the job. You need to make sure that you are standing out in every single one of your interview answers, especially tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume. The best way to do this is to identify what your differentiators are as a candidate. And you got to remember what your secret sauce is. What are some accomplishments or skills or experiences or projects that you have done that very few people else who will be applying for the same job as you are going to have? The three areas I like to think about is business impact, scalability, and complexity. The next reason why you're probably not getting a job is because you're doing small things that are giving people a really bad impression of you. And these really small things are things you're never going to get told or never going to get feedback on. You're just going to simply get rejected, or they're going to tell you that they went with a candidate who was a little bit farther along in the process. Or they're going to tell you that they went with a candidate who had the right industry experience that you don't have. These are all of the general boilerplate excuses that recruiters will give you when we can't give you the real reason. Some of the small things that you could be doing wrong is like asking questions about getting a promotion, or asking questions about transferring internally once you're at the company. Or maybe when you're interviewing, you're giving all the right and best answers, but you don't have the proper level of excitement, and they can't really tell if you actually want this job. So if you're sitting there thinking that all of your interviews went super well, you didn't miss a single interview question, and you're wondering why they didn't give you the job, it could be for one of these smaller reasons. The next reason why you may be struggling to get a new job is if you're being a little too picky on your requirements. Like maybe the company didn't give you the job title that you wanted or the right level, or maybe they only gave you a 10% raise and you wanted a 15% raise. Or maybe you think the commute's just a little too far. Now, I'm not saying you should lower your standards or take a job that is beneath you or take a step backwards in your career, but if you really want a new job and it's been at least 3 months and you still haven't found something, then you're going to want to loosen up some of those requirements. This is going to be especially true if you're truly unhappy in the job that you have right now, because it's not worth sticking in a job that probably gives you more stress, makes you feel depressed, and just adds overall negativity to your life. Also, money isn't everything, and a lot of the top companies who pay a lot for their industry do it because you typically have to work the most at those companies. So make sure you're doing your research by talking to your friends that work at those companies or checking Glassdoor to figure out what the work-life balance will be, because just because a company is going to offer you a little bit more money than another company doesn't always mean the grass is greener. An easy way to do this is to calculate what your hourly rate would be by estimating how many hours a week you think you would actually be working between one company and another. Then compare those hourly rates with one another. Another reason why you may not be able to land a job is if you're failing your reference checks. This is another one of those reasons that companies are never going to tell you is the real reason why you got rejected. Because if you think about it, they're not going to want to tell you that your friend or someone that you listed as a reference or your former boss talked bad about you. So make sure that you have the right former boss of yours that can give you a really good review when they're doing a reference check. And make sure you actually have someone who has worked directly with you on your team who is one of your references. And this also means you don't want to over embellish any of your stories or accomplishments during your interviews because they might be catching you in a lie. Alright, so those are my common reasons as to why you aren't able to land a job right now. And if I missed anything, why don't you put that down in the comments below so we can help the whole community together. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.